What is up, everybody? This is Adam. Welcome back to Fouled Out. Matt is going to be joining me in just a moment to talk week 6 of the NFL season. We are 1/3 of the way through the regular season already, and there is so much to talk about, including big wide receiver trades, the Detroit Lions, the home team here, losing their best player, Aidan Hutchinson, and the debut of my boy, Patriots quarterback Drake Maye. Made his first start on Sunday and looked damn good doing it. So you better believe we're going to talk about that in this episode and so much more. But before we get started, just a reminder, you can reach out to us, fouledOutSports@gmail.com. Really appreciate you guys listening. We would love to hear from you. Let us know how you feel your team season is going and share your gambling picks with us. See if you can beat us on the pod. We've been doing pretty good so far this season. Had a good week last week. We're looking to build on it this week. So let's go grab Matt. Let's talk week 6. Let's go. All right, Matt is here, somewhat fresh off of week 6 of the NFL season. Matt, how you doing, buddy?
Good. I'm eating Cook's ice cream. So
It doesn't get much better than that. So week 6 of the NFL in the books, we are 1/3 of the way through the 18-week schedule. Matt, the Bills beat the Jets 23-20 on Monday Night Football this week. The Jets go out and trade for wide receiver Davante Adams. They trade a conditional third-round pick. The Bills don't even wait 24 hours to let the Jets have a win. They trade a third and a seventh, 2025 third and a 26 seventh to the Browns for Amari Cooper and a 25 sixth, 25 sixth round pick. Matt, where do you want to start? You want to do the Jets trade first or the Bills?
we can do the Jets.
How much are the Jets going to invest in this season?
They've already invested far too much.
Yeah.
It's over for them.
I feel like this is textbook sunk cost fallacy, where we talked about this ad nauseum last week, so I don't want to spend too much time on the Jets. But again, just like we talked about last week, when you make this big move and you bring in someone like Aaron Rodgers and you roll out the red carpet for him and you say, give us your grocery list, Aaron, we'll go and get everything for you. You want Nathaniel Hackett as the offensive coordinator? You got it. You want Alan Lazard? You got it. You want Randall Cobb? You got it. You tell us what you want, we'll go get it for you. And you hand the keys of your entire franchise over to this guy. Now you're 2-4, and you go out and try to make a big trade for a receiver because you're like, yeah, that's what'll fix it, is getting Aaron Rodgers another guy that he wants.
It's always worked, right?
Yeah,
It's never gone poorly.
It's not like the season's over at 2-4, especially because their strength of schedule remaining is 27th. So I get it from the side also that it's like, if you can give up a conditional third round pick and get Davante Adams, you probably don't say no to that, even if he's not the same Davante Adams he used to be.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, though, like, is getting another high profile receiver, like, is that really going to fix what's wrong here?
No, not at all. That's the problem, is that the Jets as an organization refuse to acknowledge where the actual problems lie and continue to just point the finger at one person or another. But the problem still persists after all of those people are gone. No one's going to sit here and tell you that Zach Wilson or Robert Saleh were good in what they did, but you're just as bad now as you were with them.
I mean, I get the case for, like, okay, now we're going to have Garrett Wilson, Davante Adams, Breece Hall on this offense. Like, we're putting more and more weapons around it. I thought the one really good thing they did on Monday Night Football was Breece Hall had a season high for carries and touches.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like the new coaching staff is like, okay, we need to get him the ball more, which is what we advocated for last week on the podcast. But this worries me that it's like, okay, now we have all these toys to play with. Let's let Aaron Rodgers throw 40 times a game now because he has his guy.
And
again.
he simply can't do that and win.
Their schedule does get a lot easier. Like I said, their strength of schedule remaining is 27th, mostly by function of the fact that they play in the AFC East because they're 27th in remaining strength of schedule. The Patriots are 30th, Buffalo is 31st, and Miami is 32nd. So the schedules for the entire division, not too tough for the remainder of the season. So yeah, is there potential they can bounce back? Sure. I guess after a while, they might go on a run like after their bye week here in a couple weeks, especially because like the after the bye week schedule is not good. And Devontae Adams might help them do so. But it just goes back to the same conversation we had last week. So I don't want to rehash the whole thing, but like you just keep investing more and more assets into this version of the Jets led by Aaron Rodgers. And there's been no return on your investment so far.
Yeah.
But you have a negative ROI and you just keep putting money into it because you feel like you have to, because you're like, well, we can't let this fail because this was our big thing. And now you've invested, you've like even doubled down on it more by firing Saleh. Now you're doubling down again because you're like, we're going to spend another third round pick bringing in Devontae Adams, which like doesn't sound like a ton for Devontae Adams.
We're just going to quadruple down.
Yeah, just keep sinking cost into this baby. That's sunk cost fallacy at its finest. This is compound mistakes at its finest.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's still a chance the Jets make the playoffs with or without Devontae Adams, just because the rest of the schedule is so soft.
Is this game against the Steelers a must win? Because a loss will put them at 2-5.
It almost seems like a must win just from the standpoint that it would be really embarrassing for Russell Wilson to start his first game
which
destroy you.
There really should be a whole conversation about that situation as well, but you can't go into that game, especially with them reportedly making that move that they are planning on making, and losing that game, because I am not expecting to see vintage Russell Wilson either. Like, I think we're all pretty confident that he is fully cooked at this point.
Why does benching Justin Fields for Russell Wilson feel like so Mike Tomlin? Like, I mean, Fields is not a fantastic quarterback.
No.
But they're 4-2, and he's played well this year. Like, he's played the best football of his career so far this year. And he's had some big games too.
He's still struggling in all the areas that he's always struggled in. But within the offense that they've been running for him, like, he's been getting the job done. Yeah, like, they're not scoring a ton of points, and the record still holds for, when they don't score more than like 20 or more points, right? Like, that's pretty consistent thing in Fields' career, is that has a lot of games in his career where his team doesn't do that, and they almost always lose in those situations. But like, this is how your team has been winning, right? And man, are you opening up a can of worms if you make this move and it doesn't work?
Well, spoiler alert, they're not going to be good with Russell Wilson, because he really like doesn't bring that much to the table at this point in his career, like at least not much more than Fields does. And your offensive coordinator is still chode coach Arthur Smith.
Yeah. Well, that that's the thing that blows my mind here is that Justin Fields actually kind of makes sense for that offense. Like he really does when you are just like, yeah, we're gonna run the ball like way too much. We're gonna use the quarterback doing it. Well, you're certainly not gonna do that with Russell Wilson. You're just not.
Russell Wilson's at the point in his career where he's afraid to get hit.
Mhm.
And once anybody in a sport that's all about hitting the shit out of other people gets to the point where they don't want to get hit anymore, it's over. It's done.
Yeah.
But can I tell you what I'm really excited about for the Pittsburgh offense?
Well,
My bold prediction for this season for the NFC North was that somehow, some way,
yeah.
the Pittsburgh Steelers would throw for less yards than they did last season. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they averaged like 189 passing yards per game last season. And it seemed ludicrous to suggest that they could possibly throw less, but we have played 6 games. They are at 166.8 yards per game, a full 23 yards less than they were on pace for last season. And I do not think that this is going to make it better.
What's
So,
crazy is that there's someone else who is on track to fall under that threshold as well, which is insane.
you know what's even more insane? Pittsburgh is averaging 166.8 yards per game, and they're 28th. There are 4 teams that are worse at throwing the ball than Pittsburgh is. That's
Yeah,
yeah. It's the Chargers, who have no receivers.
they
It's
also just don't throw the ball.
Cleveland, who's 30th,
Yep.
which really well known the issues with Cleveland. Tennessee, and then podcast favorite Patriots of New England, bringing up the rear at 134.3 so far this season.
There,
That's
there, there might be some hope on that
the
one.
times they are a changing. We'll get to that later, but
Yeah.
that's we will not finish 32nd. I promise that. The Bills, we talked a few weeks ago about the fact they kind of needed somebody to make it easier on Josh Allen
Mhm.
from time to time. And
Yeah.
that really showed up in the Ravens game and the Texans game, where it's like, yeah, you have a very deep receiving core. You have like deeper weapons, but you don't have that top line guy to really help you out. I think the question with this trade is Amari Cooper that guy? Like, is he still a bona fide number one? You can't take anything from what we've seen with him this season because of the situation in Cleveland. So there's not a whole, like, you can't look at any of the numbers this season and be like, well, here's my analysis on if he's a number one guy or not. And I know people can quote like
Yeah.
win rate and all this other advanced stuff, but when you play in an offense like that, in a town like that, with a
Mhm.
quarterback like that, I guarantee you are not out there trying your hardest every single play.
You might think you are, but like you mentally and physically cannot do it
No.
when like you know that the quarterback is holding back the offense that much. Like
I
that the offense has been simplified to a point to where they're like trying to get something out of Deshaun, and it's still like he can't do it. And so, yeah, like Cooper, Jerry Judy, like none of these guys, I'm sure they believe they're doing their best. That you can't for your best in that scenario.
no, but I think there's a bigger debate to be had with Amari Cooper as to whether or not he's ever really been a true number one in the NFL. It, he's not like he's never been like a top 10, 15 guy. I don't
Yeah.
think like he's kind of like, if you ranked all the number one receivers, he's maybe like middle of the pack, lower on the
Mhm.
list than those like elite guys, but he's not a number two, but he's not like, I don't know. It's hard. It's like he's a guy that's hard to place,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I would
So
agree with that. thing with Amari Cooper is that he's always been an excellent route runner. Like generally one of the best route runners in the league. Um, and he's always been a class act. Like you never hear any drama surrounding him. He's very much the opposite of the Stephon Diggs experience. I think at the very least, like he's a guy that can probably like help Keon Coleman like grow into being a bit more productive by having that like consummate professional in the room to show him like actually how the work is done. So while he might not necessarily be like a true number one for them, he can kind of maybe be that like rising tide that floats the rest of the boats.
Yeah, I think no matter how you feel about him, what he does for the offense is he becomes their number one, and it
Mhm.
allows everybody else to settle into
Yep.
a lesser role that's more efficient for them. So like,
Mhm.
so far it's like, okay, is Khalil Shakir the number one? Is Keon Coleman the number one? Well, like Coleman's a rookie. Shakir's just not a number one. Like I love Khalil Shakir, but he's a slot receiver. He's not going to be like your number one outside X guy.
Yeah.
Cooper can line up there and like take pressure off all these other guys like Shakir and Kincaid, and like the core that I mentioned earlier is deep. They have a lot of options, and kind of open up the field more for those guys and for James Cook. And like, I'm not trying to shit on Amari Cooper because he is good. He's a good receiver.
Mhm.
He's been extremely consistent throughout his career, posting like 1,100 to 1,200 yards pretty much every single season he's been healthy. So he will have those plays where it's like, okay, who do I go to? We're going to go to Amari. He'll have those plays where he makes it a little bit easier on Allen as
Mhm.
well. But it's not like when they traded for Diggs and Diggs was like a bona fide superstar
Yeah.
for them for a while. It's like, you got to temper the expectations a little bit. Like, I don't think Cooper's going to go insane. Although, like, he did have 1,250 yards last season in 15 games in Cleveland. So, like, this is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco brought him back to life. But yeah, I would temper expectations, but I do expect this to obviously make the Bills offense better and kind of give them one of the pieces that they were missing. But I'm not ready to jump on here and be like, this is the trade. This Bills are Super Bowl contenders.
No, I mean I'm not gonna like see that and be like, oh, yep, like the Bills are it. The Bills are the team now. But they're definitively better. They're definitively a better team with him than without him.
Nothing that could ever happen would ever make me jump on this podcast and be like, the Bills are the team. So I want to remind everybody, a couple of years ago, when everybody was picking the Bills to win the Super Bowl, I was on here like, we're going to pick the Bills. We're all going to pick the Bills. That's who we're picking. Uh, Also, they don't have Patrick Mahomes, so they're really not a Super Bowl contender at all. Yeah, so we'll see how both trades go. Obviously, like I mentioned, both the Jets and the Bills have very easy schedules the rest of the way, and I think the trades will be beneficial to both teams. It's just a question of how beneficial can they be. The other big news from Sunday, the Motor City Kitties go into Dallas and hand the Cowboys their worst home loss since 1988 on Jerry Jones' 82nd birthday, a 47-9 walloping in Dallas. However, the Lions lose star pass rusher Aidan Hutchinson for the rest of the season to a gruesome leg injury. That was just one of those, like, you're on Reddit and it says in big red letters, not safe for work. And it says like Aidan Hutchinson's leg injury. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna click that. I'm clicking that shit. I know I'm gonna regret it.
You always think like, "Ah, I'm an adult, like I can handle this," and then like you see it and it's like, "Ugh."
Like halfway down his calf is hanging at a 90-degree angle in midair, and you're just like, yeah, I wasn't I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah, it legitimately looked like some sort of like floppy toy, and then
Oh,
there's like that sudden realization that like that's not what you're seeing. That's a human being.
that's a leg. Yeah. That, you know what's funny though is like that kind of stuff doesn't bother me as much. Like I watched the Patrick Mahomes bowling into Rashee Rice's leg video like 25 times, mostly because I thought it was hilarious, but also he deserved it. Rashee Rice deserved it.
That is karma.
And it was funny that Patrick Mahomes was the one to give it to him. But like those types of injuries don't really bother me as much. And then I like read a story about Christian McCaffrey having Achilles tendonitis in both legs, and I'm like, oh,
I knew that's where this was going.
I know, like everybody that knows me and listens to the pod knows by now that I have a phobia about my Achilles and tears and anything Achilles related. I didn't even know Achilles tendonitis was a thing until this season. And it's like, yeah, he's got it in both Achilles, and I'm like, oh god. So that's worse for me than looking at the picture of Aidan Hutchinson's leg,
Yeah.
but it was still pretty gnarly. Matt, were you able to enjoy the game at all after that point, or is it like it feels very bittersweet in Metro Detroit.
Yeah, it was tough to really enjoy it after that. Because I mean, like the game was already in hand at that point, right? Like you knew the game was already over. And like I will say the one thing about that play is the the leg broke before Aidan got the sack. And that guy was still like, no, I need to get this guy on the ground, and reached up and like pulled him down, which is the most like insane man shit that I have ever seen. But yeah, I mean, it's like it's tough to like continue enjoying the game after like there's like a 20 to 25-minute break to get him off the field.
Yeah.
And like you realize like, yeah, no, that his season is done. Um, because that like immediately there's that reality of like that might put a cap on this season. Obviously, like they're gonna do whatever they can to try and replace that production, but like we're talking about a guy who was it was basically his defensive player of the year award to lose at this point because he was playing so well. Um,
No,
and you can't just replace that.
I basically wrote down the same thing is that he's been the best. I mean, you could really say the best defensive player in the league.
Yeah,
I said the best edge rusher, like hands down. You know, everybody talks about
yeah,
TJ Watt, Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett. Aidan Hutchinson so far this season was by far the best edge rusher. He had 7.5 sacks, which is first in the league. 28 pressures was first in the league. He did both of those in 5 games, really like 4 3/4, but he did both of those in 5 games played, while
yeah,
everybody that's number 2 in those stats has played 6 games.
yeah.
Also, number 1 in pass rush win rate this season. And the Lions defense has actually been good so far.
Mhm.
13th in yards allowed, 8th in points allowed, and number 4 in DVOA. And my fear for the Motor City Kitties is that this turns into a TJ Watt situation where the Steelers, the last couple of seasons, obviously the Lions have way more talent, so I don't expect the win-loss record to be as dramatic where like
Yeah,
they were 1-6 without TJ Watt and like 7-2 with him or whatever it was.
yeah.
But I do worry about like you said, you're going to try to find solutions.
Mhm.
They called the Jets about Hassan Reddick today. Max Crosby trade rumors have been shot down, but like it could happen if the Raiders do like a fire sale. But no matter who you get, you're not
Mhm.
bringing Aidan Hutchinson
No.
in. So can this defense, like how good can this defense be without that elite, like the elitist of the elite players at the most important position on your entire defense?
Yeah. Well, and I think with regards to this, Dan Campbell has said is kind of spot on is like you aren't gonna replace a special guy like that. You're just not. Like it's not a realistic possibility. And you know, the rest of the guys on defense are going to have to do the best they can to kind of make up for that. But this is where like complementary football really comes in. Like the offense knows, yeah, we took a huge loss to this team by losing Aidan Hutchinson at least for the rest of the year. We're gonna have to pick it up. Special teams, same deal. Like gonna have to play extremely clean. That's how you deal with that is you pick it up in other areas of the game. Um, this is an offense that is capable of putting up a ton of points. Yeah, I don't expect this defense to like suddenly be giving up 30 points per game, but like, yeah, it's probably gonna take a step back because it's losing the best defensive player in the league right now.
Yeah.
Um,
It swung the line on the Vikings game this weekend from like Lions being favored by, I think it was like 1.5 to like the Vikings being favored by 2.5.
mhm.
Like a 4 point swing on the
Yeah,
line. Like he is that good.
yeah. The emphasis on defense is gonna have to change too. Like it, and it sucks because of some of the other losses that the defense has already sustained. You know, losing Davenport, that didn't help. Derek Barnes, uh, done for the year. And like that's another one of those guys that we would use to rush. It's it sucks that they've lost kind of some of the guys that they would turn to fill that void, but like they went out and put a lot of resources into the secondary. Like they're gonna have to step their game up. And Tyrion Arnold did just play his best game of the year. Like no flags.
Yeah.
Like that's huge. They're gonna need a hell of a lot more of that. And that's how you fix this by having other guys in other spots play better because you're not going to get that production back.
That's a good point. I think the issue is also exacerbated by the fact that you play in what is the best division in football by
Yeah,
far. Like, so the NFC North, we talked about this, was the last week or the week before we talked
I
about
think
how
it was the
good.
last week. Yeah.
Yeah. The NFC North is 17-5 now, which is the best record ever through 6 weeks for a
Mhm.
division. The I mentioned earlier that like the AFC East, everybody has the weakest strength of schedule remaining. The NFC North, the Bears have the number one hardest strength of schedule remaining. Lions are number two, Packers are number three, and the Vikings are actually down at like 11, but they've had the fifth hardest schedule so far. So, yeah, everybody's schedule is like super difficult, mostly because there's only been one division game played in the entire NFC North so far,
Mhm.
which doesn't seem possible, like logistically possible, but they backloaded your guys' division schedule for almost every team.
Yeah.
Like the Lions and Vikings play this weekend, which should be an awesome game. And it's the second division game. And then there's no more division games for like another 2 weeks until like Green Bay and the Bears play or something like that. So there's been a lot of talk about potentially for all four teams from this division making the playoffs. I look at like the fact that there's only been one division game played so far and just think about how difficult it would be. I mean, you basically all have to be at like 9 or 10 wins,
Yeah.
right? And like, so I think two, maybe three of the teams can make it. And I know like I was looking at who could potentially get left out. The Bears have looked a lot better lately, but like I said, their future schedule is number one in terms of
Mhm.
DVOA for like the hardest
Yeah.
and draft.
Well, and they're 4-2, but they're 4-0 at home.
Yeah. And well, the teams
Right.
they won in London, technically a home
Well,
game.
yeah, that's
But
technically a home game. Right, which is like that's one less home game that they get to have the rest of the year.
yeah. So DraftKings still has their over under at 8.5, even though they've already won 4 games.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. The rest of the schedule is absolutely brutal, but I have no statistical evidence for this. I have no backing for this at all because every single statistic says that this team is actually very, very good. I still don't trust the Vikings. I still don't. They're number one in
You
DVOA.
should never trust the Vikings.
I know they're number one in DVOA, 18th in offense, number one in defense, and they've played the fifth hardest schedule so far, and they are undefeated. But I just can't look at a team quarterbacked by Sam Darnold and be like, that team's going places.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's kind of my thing looking at the game this weekend is like I'm not that worried about it because I mean obviously like I expect it to be a tough game because they played extremely well. But I'm not out here worried that like Sam Darnold is gonna slice this team up because he's made plenty of mistakes already this year. And he's gotten away with a lot of them. And we're starting to see a couple that he didn't get away with more recently. Uh I I fully believe that Aaron Glenn is vehemently emphasizing punishing those mistakes because like there's been a lot of dropped interceptions for
Yeah.
him already.
Did you know you guys have 2 of the top 5 guys in terms of interceptions right now?
Yeah,
Kirby Joseph and my guy, Brian Branch.
Branch,
Yeah.
PB. Yeah.
Yeah. I just love to be right about things. I love like going back 1, 2, 3, 4 years later, looking at the draft and looking at the my guys and how good they are, and just being like, yeah, man. Bucky Irving was a my guy in this last draft, and now he's
Yeah.
killing it in Tampa. And I'm just like, it's people should now come to us and like just pay us to make them a my. Give me some of that NIL money, and we'll make you one of our my guys, and then you'll have a good career because it seems like we just know how to pick them on the pot. Like it's like suffering from success. Every single my guy we've picked for 4 years now is good at football. And it's like immediate too. Like Bucky Irving's good now.
Yeah.
And I was told in the preseason draft, or I was told in the draft process, Bucky Irving was like an F on everybody's draft boards and all the draft analysis. They're all like, we hate Bucky Irving. And I was like, you know who I like is Bucky goddamn Irving. Now he's balling. All right. You have any other thoughts on the Lions? You want to go to Bolds and Scolds, America's most favorite segment?
No, I mean I feel like we kind of covered it.
Just sad.
It's just yeah, it's
I know what I wanted to ask you. So I guess this is more of a statement than a question, but like I really don't fully understand the whole we want revenge against Dallas thing. Because like I know the history of Dallas and Detroit in the playoffs. There's like there's that playoff game, there's last season with getting screwed, but like it's not Dallas that's doing this to you. It's the referees. And like, so is the logic like, hey, if we really stick this to Dallas, it'll piss off the refs because the refs love them so much? Is that the thought? Or you guys like, I feel like there's like an irrational hatred for the Cowboys.
I'm not going to speak to the majority of a fan base because I know that that's not necessarily always the truth, but the vocal majority of the fan base after those incidents really, really plays it up that like, oh no, like everything went kosher. Everything was super fine.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you know what? Okay. When you guys got screwed right after the very next game after that flag got picked up, I laughed my fucking ass off.
Yeah, but that's every team that's ever won from like if you ask me about the tuck rule, I'm going to tell you that was the right call. I'm not going to say that Tom Brady fumbled that ball. That was absolutely the right call. Nothing weird there. Go Tom. But I just thought it was hilarious that like it was very obvious. It wasn't just the fans who wanted revenge on Dallas. Like Ben Johnson was all the way in his bag trying to find ways to like force an offensive lineman to score a touchdown.
Yeah.
They threw a pass to Amon-Ra St. Brown, who laterals it to Penei Sewell, who's running a bubble screen. Like,
Yeah.
awesome, awesome play. One of the most creative plays I've seen since earlier on
Mhm.
Sunday when I saw that flea flicker I loved. But no, like, seriously, one of the most creative plays I've seen in a long time. But like, dude, you're up 30. Maybe save it for when it is needed. Like, I don't like, I feel like he pulled out some trick plays that he could have saved for a more crucial time just because he was trying to prove a point.
Do you know when the last time the Lions had a home game against Dallas was?
Like, never.
I was gonna say because I honestly don't know because
I
it's
don't
been
know.
that long and we play them like every year.
Yeah.
So like you can't tell me that's an accident. Like so yeah, if we got a chance to stick it to Dallas in Dallas, fuck them.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna
Well,
do it.
I knew for you it felt good, but it's like, I guess Sunday was the first time that I really fully realized that this is not just like a Matt hates Dallas thing. It's like the people who coach and play for the Lions hate Dallas. And they really did everything they could to stick it to him.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean like
and it was funny.
I I think if you go back and like look at the comments that were made about that after that game and within the context of what we just saw, then it's like, yeah, no, they were saying what they had to say to the media at that time, but they were hot fucking pissed and they wanted to say a lot of other shit.
Yeah. But that was part of why we both bet on Detroit last week.
Yeah.
I also bet on
I
them huge, my biggest bet of the entire season so far on them to win by 3.5 or whatever the line was at game time. Could have,
I only wish that I had gone more aggressive on that line
yeah,
because 6.5 was far too low.
we it could have made it like what, almost 40. You could have made it like 37.5 and you still
Yeah.
would have won. So,
Yeah.
but they don't let you go that high, actually. It was higher than they would even let you go. So, all right, America's most favorite segment, Bolds and Scolds for week 6 of the NFL season. I You'd really think we would track this by now, but I don't. So I think it's my week to go first. My bold. And God, good God, anybody who has ever listened to this podcast knows this one's coming. My bold is Patriots quarterback Drake Maye. Little bit of a homer pick, but I actually really do feel like he deserves it. First career start on Sunday in a 41-21 loss to the Texans. Matt, he looked like the guy. I don't think people are making as big of a deal of this as they should because the NFL and almost all of the NFL fans hate the Patriots. If you don't believe me, look at the fact that we play in London this Sunday and don't have a bye week after. We have a 1 p.m. game the next week. Thanks for that, dickwads. Drake Maye, 20 of 33, 243 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. Also lost a fumble, but rushed 5 times for 38 yards. To do that in his first start, surrounded by what he is surrounded by in New England, both on the field and on the sideline, they potentially have the worst receiver room in the league, the worst offensive line in the league with a bullet, and their coaches suck. I'm just gonna put it out there that the New England coaches suck. Can they get better? Sure. But man, was Sunday awful from a coaching perspective. Matt, we ran the ball 21 times for 44 yards if you don't count Drake Maye scrambling. And they ran it 21 times, even though they couldn't run. This offense uses the least motion in the league by far. Multiple people, what's your boy, the guy that does quarterback school?
Oh, JT.
Yeah. He ripped the offense. Kurt Warner ripped the offense.
Yep.
Multiple people ripped the offense for how simple the concepts are and how bad the spacing is of the routes that
Yep.
are being run. Multiple people in the same spot. So like the coaching is horrible. The players on the field are horrible. If you've watched the Patriots at all this season, coming into this game, the Patriots had thrown 2 touchdown passes all season and were averaging 119 yards passing. They went up against the Texans, who were allowing a league low 173 yards passing per game. And Drake Maye, with all of that, throws for 243, which is the most yards the Texans have given up this season, 3 touchdowns, which is higher than the 2 touchdowns the Patriots had thrown for the rest of the season combined. And overall, like, just past the eye test, everything was on display for Drake. The rocket launcher arm, the mobility, running out of a couple sacks for a first down, really good pocket awareness, stepping up in the pocket. Sometimes, I mean, there was other times where he got the ball, and basically by the time he got the ball, Will Anderson was already sacking him by the time the ball got from the center to his hands. So, like, yes, the issues were on display a little bit too. The things we knew, like his footwork needs work. He did not do a good job throwing the ball to the left side of the field, and that's a footwork issue. And he looked a little bit raw at times, but holy shit, man. I am so excited to watch him play the Jags in London on Sunday, and just to watch him again, because I watched the entire game. It was the first time I didn't turn the Patriots off this year since the Cincinnati win. He just, like, he's the guy. He's him. He is going to be awesome. And all of the flashes that you would want to see out of him were on full display on Sunday. So, like I said last week, the losing sucks, but I'm not concerned about it right now. I want to see the improvement game to game to game, week to week to week. So I'm super excited to watch him on Sunday, but just hope he doesn't die, because holy hell, was it bad on Sunday?
I heard EJ Snyder use a really good Bill Parcells quote to kind of like sum up what we saw from him. It's, if they don't bite when they're puppies, they usually don't bite. Right. So yeah, like, Drake made some mistakes in that game. Sure. He's a rookie in his first start ever. But you saw what the upside is.
Yeah.
Right? You saw what he can reach. And if you don't see that when they're kind of like, you know, fresh to it, when they, within those like first few games, you're probably not gonna see it at all in reality.
Yeah, we talked about this a couple weeks ago with the rookie quarterbacks, where it's like, you need to see the flashes.
Yep.
And if you don't see the flashes, like, that's when you start getting concerned.
Yep.
And oh man, like, a flash is not a strong enough word for what I saw on Sunday. His first touchdown pass, the absolute dot 40 yards down the sideline. I'm trying to remember who caught it. Kayshon Boutte caught it. The dot to Boutte, and then the touchdown pass to Demario Douglas, like buying time, stepping up in the pocket, whipping that thing. Oh, I went back and watched every single throw. I was like, I have to watch it again.
We saw flashes from Will Levis last year. What you saw in that game was him being able to like string drives together.
The thing about Drake is, like, yeah, I had Tom Brady for 20 years, the greatest of all time, my favorite player of any sport ever. Love Tom Brady. But like, we have not had a quarterback who has the athletic upside of Drake Maye ever.
Yeah.
Ever. And it was on, like, him running. He had these runs where he's about to get sacked and he like slips through, runs for a first down. Like, and then to like do that, and then to have an absolute rocket launcher on your shoulder is like, we haven't seen this kind of athletic upside in New England.
And that's the funny thing is that before Tom Brady, like, that at the quarterback position was such an anomaly. It was like you basically had one in the league and Michael Vick, and then like a couple of guys that were kind of mobile, but like it it was thought to be like an accent to your quarterback and
Yeah, well,
never thought to be like a serious feature.
no, it used to be that like people would be like, yeah, mobile quarterbacks are cute, but you can't win with a guy who runs because he's just not a good enough quarterback. And then now it's like, okay, if you're not mobile, you don't have to be Michael Vick, but like
Yeah.
if you're not mobile at all, then you have basically no upside. And that was the problem with Mac Jones. And
Yeah.
that's why I had him so low in that draft was like, he's a statue. He can't do it. So watching Drake on Sunday,
Yeah.
I'm excited to watch the
Right.
Patriots, which is a far cry from where I've been the rest of this year.
Well, and I will say, like, I love watching Lamar Jackson because the way he plays is such a fuck you to people who said that about those quarterbacks because he is a complete affront to everything they believed. He is easily the best runner as a quarterback in the NFL. He's probably one of the best, like 5 to 10 runners, period, in the NFL. But he also is like, honestly, one in terms of throwing the ball on like intermediate routes and having the touch to just like layer it in there, he's probably one of the 5 best at that in the NFL. And that is like really where you're making your money 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know, those people that say that shit are still saying, oh, yeah, but you can't win a Super Bowl with him. So he really needs to win a Super Bowl if he's going to shut those people up because
Yeah.
right now they're not wrong. But all right, who is your bold?
Well, I mean, I'll stick with the same game as Lamar, but look, Jayden Daniels went toe to toe with Lamar Jackson and like did as well as anyone could have asked a rookie to do in that scenario, and like probably had Ravens fans sweating a little bit in that game because like they just weren't really creating any separation in that game. But like, I mean, you really can't look at anything he's done at this point and not come to the conclusion of, yeah, this guy's real.
Yeah.
Like it's just the real deal. You can't
We've
like he's got everything you want.
we really just might have three awesome rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Like that at this point, I'm just like, yeah, I've seen all of them. I've seen Caleb and Jayden get better and play
Yeah, and
awesome.
then we got Bo.
Yeah. Bo knows football, baby. Let's go. And then there's also that Drake May guy, but Bo Nix, baby. Um, yeah, that Ravens Commanders game or the Ravens fighting Georgia's game, patent pending. Josh Harris, pay me my $5 million if you want to never be called the Commanders again. It felt like the Ravens were going to win it the entire time to
Mhm.
me, but it was one of those like, okay, this game is either going to become if it felt like the Commanders hanging in there
Yeah.
like they did was like an accomplishment in itself. Like it was like
Yeah.
it was a good loss for them. It's like, oh, because you're just waiting for the Ravens to like pull away and it for like to be a 14 or 17 point game. And they just couldn't quite do it. And it's like, I never felt like the Ravens were going to lose. But also, I found myself being more and more impressed with the Commanders, especially because they didn't have Brian Robinson, who's been awesome
Yeah.
this season. And
And I mean,
somehow I still won my fantasy matchup, even though I didn't have Brian Robinson or James Cook this week.
I
Thank
mean,
you.
let's
Thank you, Tyrone Tracy.
call it what it is too. Like Washington doesn't have the horses on defense to deal with Lamar Jackson. So like the fact that Jayden Daniels hung in there with them as long as he did, like that's an accomplishment because you basically had to go out there and score on almost every possession.
Yeah. But who does have the horses to hang with Lamar Jackson?
Kansas City, because they'll
Yeah.
just refuse to run the ball.
God damn it. That speaking of my fantasy team, Lamar Jackson's my quarterback, and I've also thoroughly enjoyed that this season. My scold for week 6 is the review crew for Thursday Night Football. I wasn't sure specifically who to scold for this, but they admitted the dumbest thing I've ever heard an NFL announcer or like an announcing team admit on Thursday. I don't know if you caught this, but there was a play in that 49ers Seahawks game where the 49ers were punting the ball away and the ball like went through the returner's arms and like hit the ground and bounced back up. And they couldn't tell if he touched it or not, basically. So the 49ers recover the ball. They think it's a recovered fumble because they think it hit the guy's hand. And they go to the review. They review it and they say it did not hit the guy's hand and that it's Seahawks ball. So the Seahawks are like driving and they're doing the replay in the booth. And it very, very clearly hits the guy's hand, hits his
Yeah.
thumb, and it would have been a fumble. And they're talking to Dean Blandino about it, the officiating guy. And he goes, yeah, we talked to the review team in New York, and the quality of film they're working with is not as good as the quality of film you guys have on replay for Thursday Night Football on Amazon. And I was like, wait, what? Did you just admit that on the air that you have worse film in the review room where we send replays to be reviewed to make sure they're correct than what I'm watching on my TV at home?
What do you think? The NFL is a multi-billion-dollar corporation?
It absolutely blew my mind. One, that could possibly be true. And two, that you would say that on the air. I'm like, what? Just don't go to Dean Blandino. Just don't. Like, we don't need the explanation. And then he comes on and he's like, yeah, they're basically a bunch of fucking idiots and don't know what they're doing. It's like, great. Thanks for the confidence, guys.
I mean, we knew they didn't care. We knew they didn't care because of the 1 year they let us they let the teams challenge like penalties and pass interference and stuff like that. And then like none of them were actually overturned, and even regardless of like how clearly egregious the play were. Like the NFL doesn't fucking care.
it was so amazing to me. Like I won't get over the fact that they said it on the air. I stopped the game. I paused it. I was like, wait, I need to go back and make sure that he just said that. But it seems impossible to me that there's no there's no TV wherever you guys are reviewing this. I could see it so the replay quality on my TV is better than what are they using in New York? Do they not have TVs in New York? I was bamboozled. I was befuddled. I was flabbergasted. And I was a bunch of other silly old timey words that you can think of at home. But it was like Thursday night. It was like one of the first things happened Thursday night. And I was like, I know what my scold for the week is. We are done here.
Yeah, it's a choice, but it's also something to talk about. And as you've said before, the NFL doesn't care if they look bad as long as people are talking about them.
I would respect the NFL more if they came out and they're like, yeah, well, if we give the ball to San Francisco here, the game might get out of hand. And we really want people to watch because it's on Amazon and they can track exactly how many people are watching, as opposed to ESPN, who just kind of, we guess it's going to be good. So just say that. But then also, like, they just took a total shit on their broadcasting partner coming up because now this Thursday it's Spencer Rattler versus the aforementioned Bo Nix on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah.
So who's your scold week 6?
My scold is, I don't even know what to call this. The entire situation with Cleveland and Deshaun Watson. Like I could scold Deshaun, which I should. I could scold Kevin Stefanski, and I should. I could scold Jimmy Haslam, the owner, and I should, because this situation is so far beyond what anyone should ever have expected to be a possible scenario it could be. Um, so since 2000, there have been 592 quarterbacks that have started their team's first 6 games. Take a guess where Deshaun Watson ranks in EPA per play in that list.
You said there was 592 of them.
Yep.
I'm going to guess he's 595th out of 592.
You're disturbingly close. It's 590.
So wait, there's 2 quarterbacks who were worse than him.
Apparently.
Do we know who they are?
I will have to dig to find that. But yeah,
You keep going. I'm consulting our research
it
department.
is absolutely wild how bad. Like, think about the worst quarterbacks you have ever seen play that weren't Deshaun Watson, and he is playing worse than them. They still have 2 more years after this season before they can actually move on from him. The next 2 years, his cap hit is just short of $73 million for each of the next 2 years. And to make matters worse, Kevin Stefanski is clearly being told by ownership that they have to continue and make Deshaun Watson work, because there's no way that with the way he is simplifying this offense and Deshaun Watson is still playing this poorly, that he truly believes that their best chance to win is Deshaun Watson. Like the entire situation is beyond anything I ever thought could possibly happen when that trade occurred. But like, I don't know if he's a top 40 or 45 quarterback in the NFL.
That scrolling through this article called "However bad you think Deshaun Watson has been, he's actually been worse." And there's like 12. They listed like 12 stats to show how bad he's actually been, and one of them is, do you know what Cleveland's third down conversion percentage is?
I I'm sure I don't want to know, but go ahead and tell me.
They've converted 19% of their third downs this season, and they're 0 for their last 26.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
It's very
Well,
bad. This says since 2007, 566 quarterbacks have thrown at least 100 passes in the first 6 games of the team's respective season. By first downs per pass attempt, Bo Nix season is tied for 564th. Deshaun Watson's season is 566. So watching it keeps going. It's like DVOA, offensive success rate, QBR, their EPA per dropback since 2000, EPA per dropback weeks 1 through 6 since 2000. Deshaun Watson is down there with Jamarcus Russell, Josh Rosen for the Dolphins. Not even Josh Rosen when he was a rookie. Josh Rosen for the Dolphins.
God.
Cordell Stewart, Joey Harrington, Will Levis is down there. We mentioned that before. Kyle Bowler. Worst success rate on dropback since 2000. Yeah. This is the worst we have ever seen a starting quarterback play for an extended period of time and not get benched.
Yeah. you look at that situation and like to kind of bring it back to the ownership, like they they had a little bit of something there. They had some flashes there with Baker. And like keep in mind, the last we saw Baker in Cleveland, he had like probably four different should have been season ending injuries going on at that time. And like he had to throw the ball like what was it, like 40 plus times in that last playoff game. So and then the owner goes like, yeah, I need you to go get me Deshaun Watson. I mean, what person in their right mind wouldn't take Baker Mayfield over Deshaun Watson at this point?
Yeah. The funniest thing about this entire Deshaun Watson situation is that one of Matt's bold predictions was that Deshaun Watson is going to get benched due to poor play. And while you are right in every single facet of the word about how poor his play has been, you are not going to win the bold prediction because he's
It's
just not going to get benched.
the funniest thing is that it's going to be our first asterisk.
It really is good. Like, yes, he played bad enough to get benched, but they just didn't bench him. They just didn't. He's the worst quarter. I bet you any amount of money that at some point this season he's going to have a quote unquote injury, shoulder sore, ribs, something where he won't play. But it'll be later in the season when it's like, okay, he could just not play the last 3 games, and he's going to focus on his rehab and focus on being better next year. And he's actually been dealing with this all season. Surprise,
Yeah,
surprise. Yeah, which is bullshit.
no.
But I'm still not going to give you the bold because they're going to be like, he's hurt. And I'm like, nope. Asterisks for you. You hit 0.5% of a bold. Or yeah, you hit half a bold. All right. Gambling picks for week 7. So recap from last week. I'm very annoyed by how the gambling picks went last week because we talked about how we had a couple of losing weeks in a row. I was like, man, we need a big week. We need to go 4-0 and then maybe hit the long shot. We went 3-1 on the picks, but literally only because Jordan Mason hurt his shoulder. He needed 82.5 yards. He had 73 yards on 9 carries in the first half and then exited with a shoulder injury and did not come back. So not great, but we killed it besides that. You had JSN for 4.5 catches. He had 5. I had the Lions by 3. You had the Lions by 6.5. And obviously, both of those cashed. We could have been way more aggressive. I had Jalen Polk for an anytime TD for the long shot. And while the Patriots receivers did catch 3 TDs, it just didn't pick the right one. Kayshon Boutte or Demario Douglas or Hunter Henry also had similar odds. Just didn't get the right guy there. My bad. But a winning week, positive cash flow for last week. Going to look to build on that with an even better week this week. The challenge is for this week that Thursday Night Football is Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos at Spencer Rattler and the New Orleans Saints. So bad they didn't even know who to put on the graphic. It's like Sean Payton and Cam Jordan were like on the graphic.
Yeah.
Not great. Broncos favored by 3 on the road. So it is your week to pick first. I say, do you have one you like? Because I was going to say good luck to you because I was reading through the player props and I'm seeing all sorts of names that I don't know.
I'm hammering the under. I'm hammering the under 37 points. Like, how many times have the Broncos hit double-digit points this year?
I don't. They're definitely not scoring a lot with how
Yeah.
bad I just mentioned Bo Nix has been.
And I'm not banking on Spencer Rattler to be particularly better against Denver's defense.
Fair. What are the odds on that?
That's minus 110.
Okay. I figured. Yeah, I looked through all the player props and I saw a bunch of names I don't know. To be honest, like that's probably not a good thing for a podcast host who's giving you gambling picks to admit, but it was like the only player special is will Bub Means have 25 receiving yards in both halves. I don't know who the fuck that guy is. And they're like Devon Veely. There's a player special. It's like Devon Veal versus Alvin Kamara. Who's gonna have more receiving yards? And Devon Veal's favored by like 17 and a half receiving yards. And I was like, there's no way that that's right. And so I went back and looked at the last couple games and like he's played like two games and he has like six catches for 60 and eight catches for 80 the last two games. And I was like, okay, I'm staying away from that. I'm just I'm purely going based on statistical trend here. And I'm gonna say Broncos -3 is my pick. Seems like a trap game. 64% of the money right now is on the Saints. Matt, road favorites this year are 21, 9, and 2 against the spread. They're covering the spread at a 70% clip so far. And home dogs straight up are 8 and 24 this season, which is a 25% win percentage. So I'm just gonna trust the trend. This is one of those games where like my initial look at it, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm taking Saints money line here. They're home. The Broncos suck. It's Thursday. And then you see that like 64% of the money is on the Saints already. And like nobody's picking the Broncos. And I'm like, okay, yeah, this is the 100% stereotypical trap game. Plus the Saints just gave up 51 points to the Bucks on Sunday. So yeah, Broncos -3. I don't feel good about it. If I could change our bet increments, I would. For this one, I would not want to bet that. Uh, where are you going for the weekend?
I'm gonna go to the Titans Bills game and just take an anytime touchdown for Josh Allen. This the Bills have looked a little rocky the last few games, and it just feels like kind of the classic like get right, beat 'em up type of game for the Bills. I mean, Josh Allen scoring a touchdown is usually a pretty fucking good bet. So,
What are the odds right now?
-115.
Okay. Yeah, I Josh Allen's a pretty solid pick to score, especially because he's going to have short fields against the
Yeah.
Titans. Let's just put it that
Yep.
way. I'm going to stick with the road favorites trend, but this time I'm picking against the worst team in the league. I'm going to pick the Bengals -6 versus the Cleveland Browns. We just talked for quite a little bit about how bad Deshaun Watson's been this season. I think that we're at the point where if Deshaun Watson is starting and the spread is less than 7, we could just pick the other team. Just blind. And it's the Bengals who are very capable of scoring points. Joe Burrow's been playing well lately, although that Giants game on Sunday Night Football was quite a debacle. So I feel comfortable going there. For the long shot bet of the week, I'm going to give you an option.
Okay.
Bengals -16 against the Browns is +322. The New England Patriots -3.5 against the Jags in London is +300.
You know,
Those are the two I came up with, but like I I have my Homer Drake Maye goggles on. So I was leaning Bengals, but 16 points is a lot.
I was considering the Patriots money line. In large part because the Jaguars are just that bad.
As are the Patriots. Like people, I don't think people fully
Yes,
understand how bad the Patriots are.
but I will also note that Drake Maye did more in that one game
Mm.
than Trevor Lawrence has kind of done his entire career. So
Yes. So which one do you want to go with?
um I'm gonna go with Bengals minus 16 just because I think this is gonna. I feel like this has to be like Deshaun isn't good enough. There's one caveat here. Nick Chubb is supposed to come back.
Yeah, but just think Deshaun is so bad that like
I know.
is Nick Chubb's first game gonna be like how many points are they gonna score? They they scored
Well,
zero.
that's
They scored zero offensive points against Philly.
If I am if I am Kevin Stefanski, my whole goal is to keep Joe Burrow on the sideline as long as I can.
Yeah.
Um, but I still think Bengals minus 16 is the most probable outcome. Like I not only are they in an absolute must-win scenario, Cincinnati, but like they've got to be at a point where they just want to take it out on someone.
Yeah.
And who is easier to take it out on than the Cleveland Browns?
They also just traded away Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
Like, so you're down an offensive weapon for an offense that was already horrifically bad. Yeah. That's kind of where I came up with that one too. Is I was like, where have we been successful? The long shot bets. It's just
Yeah.
jacking up the line somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I really pissed at myself because that's what we should have done last week for Lions versus Dallas. Is we should have just been like, we have -3, we have -6.5, and now we have -20 or whatever the number would have had to have been to put it to +300.
Yeah.
Because I thought about it and I didn't do it because I was so excited about Drake. And I don't want to miss on the Bengals thing because I'm so excited about Drake that I'm like, the Patriots only have to win by 4 because we
Yeah.
probably won't win in London. But that is it for us. As always, Fouled Out can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Overcast, anywhere you get your podcasts. You can hit us up on Gmail at Fouled Out Sports. You can find our videos on TikTok at Fouled Out Sports Podcast. It's a long name, but you can't miss it. This weekend, college football, 3:30 on Saturday. Number 7 Alabama at number 11 Tennessee. Always a good time when those teams match up.
Mm-hmm.
And then, oh mama, 7:30. Number 5 Georgia at number 1 Texas. Texas has looked like by far the best team in the country so far this season, but that is going to be a challenge that is on another level with Georgia. Yeah. And I am super excited to watch both of those games. They're bangers. Michigan plays Illinois, which is 24-22. Yeah, that's kind of it. But that's kind of all you need when you have marquee matchups like that. Is you got a 3:31 and a 7:31. Do stuff with your family before the 3:31. And then London game on Sunday. So there's Thursday night football, which you could probably skip. Can't imagine watching that full game. London game, Patriots and Jags in London if you guys want to watch Drake Maye. Lions Vikings is at 1 on Sunday. I think that one's going to be fun, along with Houston. Mm-hmm. Houston's at Green Bay at 1:00 as well. And then Kansas City and San Francisco is the afternoon game. So fun day of games. Wraps up with like Jets Steelers, so you might be able to go to bed early. And then 2 Monday night football games. We're back to that for some reason. 8:15 on Monday, Ravens at Bucks, which could be a fun one. And then 9:00 on Monday, Chargers at Cards. So, yeah, we got options, baby. But Matt and I will be back next week after week 7 to break down all the action for you guys. So, Matt, my friend, I will see you then.
Yep. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Bye, Matt.
Bye, Robin.